Good morning, everybody. Buenos dias. How are you feeling on day 220 of the year? I am so exhausted I surfed twice this morning. It is like offshore and absolutely perfect here right now. I pushed myself to my physical limit and I'm really, really out of it. So please bear with me if I'm a little slow this morning. Hopefully you got outside in nature and enjoyed a nice start to your day. It was very yang energy for me today. It's very hot, it's very windy, the waves are kind of good. So I got a lot of yang energy out this morning, which usually my mornings are pretty yin. But that also goes to show the effect that your environment has on you, right? When there's factors in the environment that are pushing you into more of a yang state, you kind of go with it. Whereas if the factors in the environment are more in the yin state, you go more with the yin. And hopefully this is something that you are starting to figure out as we spend our mornings together, as you kind of have this as part of your routine, that check in with yourself, checking in with the environment, understanding if you're feeling a little more yin or yang, and just, starting your day out with those things in mind so you can set yourself up for having the best day possible. So we are on day 220 of the year already. The year is flying by. And according to 365 Tao by Deng Ming Dao, our word on day 220 is threshold. So grab your book, grab your journal and something to write with. Find that nice, quiet and comfy place. If you can be outside in nature like I am, I really encourage you to do that. Be here, now and present. Just take some deep breaths. Drop into just stillness and being and observing what's happening around you. And let's start reading together on day 220 on the subject of threshold. Why mourn for a cocoon after the butterfly has flown? Death is one of the few givens in life, and yet we fear it. We immaturely deny its presence or refuse to take it into account. In life, where so few things are stable enough to serve as true reference points, death is one of the few assurances. So that is not how I was expecting to start today's passage, but it's true, right? Death is one of the few givens in life. It's something that we absolutely know is going to happen to everyone, including ourselves. And you can't really say much else about this life with that certainty. So it's an interesting thing to think about. But as it says here, we fear it. We deny its presence. We refuse to take it into account, but it's literally going to happen to all of us. It's an interesting relationship that people have with death, so I can see kind of where this passage is going today. Death is not an ending. It is a transformation. What dies is only our sense of identity, which was false to begin with. Death is the threshold of this life. Beyond it is something else, some mystery. We can only be sure that it is unlike this life. Let us be unabashed in admitting that no one knows death definitively. The closest we may come is a supposed near-death experience, which by definition cannot be death itself. Alternatively, we can examine other people who have died. We can look at a corpse. When we do, we see that whoever or whatever it was animated, that body is no longer in force. So I feel like this has been a theme over the last couple of years, right? The last couple of pages, the last few days of reading. It says here, whatever was animating that body is no longer a force. So if you're separate from the body was animated by something. What is that? That's your spirit or your soul. Is that body our dead friend? No. Whatever it was that the person we knew is gone. What use is there to mourn over a lifeless shell in a casket? Death defines the limits of life. Within those limits, there is structure upon which to base one's decisions. Whenever one deems that one's life has been fulfilled, one can utilize death as the portal away from this existence. Well, I apologize, I didn't give like a trigger warning or anything, because today's passages are actually pretty loaded, and if you're dealing with death at this point in your life, a loved one or someone in your family, or there's all this is just part of the cycle of life, and if this is happening in your life right now, I apologize, but the word threshold to me didn't really jump out as that this was going to be like quite a dark and a passage about death. As it says here, yes, it's something that we fear. Yes, it's a given in life, but it can be a very, very challenging concept to think about, especially if this is, happening recently in your reality. So just, be gentle with yourself if that's the case right now, and you might want to journal about what you've been through. That's, transmuting what's happening to you emotionally through the pen, through your hand onto the paper is a beautiful way to transmute all those emotions and things that are inside of you. So today's journaling practice, if you are currently dealing with a death in your life, might be a really wonderful way to do that. And if this isn't affecting you directly right now, this theme, you might just want to sit and contemplate what the concept of death means to you. And it says here, do you have any fears around it? Do you refuse to take it into account? What do you think happens after you die? The body is left and then the spirit is gone. There's this things that you can, go back in this passage this morning, reread it in your own time. And if there's anything that really jumps out at you, pull it out as a journaling prompt, or just, sit with that thought for today. Even though it is a pretty intense way to start the morning, it is, as it says here, it is one of the few givens in life. So having a healthy relationship with death is something that we, it's I don't know, like a good practice. I think it's a realistic and healthy practice because it is something that is going to affect all of us at some stage in some cycle of our lives. So a little bit of a somber note this morning on day 220, but thank you so much for being here for 220 days of the year, and I will check in with you tomorrow.